a reality now on which we can we can speak. This clear will, of course, is not without having some questions. Everybody wants to have at the end something stable, something that it has been discussed also, because I want to say that everything like this has questions with it, because it's not understandable with people. Of course, in France we understand that cinema, as a creative industry, is a different industry. So it's probably in the French mentality, I would say, not as difficult to support an industry which is a cultural industry, because we have this exception culturelle that is part of our identity. So maybe it's more complicated in other countries, but they did it also in very liberal countries, right? So it's possible to support an industry and tell that this industry is also a little bit different for different reasons. Also because it's a win-win situation. Also because it has with it a lot to bring to Romania as a country, and you say that. And also, and I think that it's very important, there is a public narrative to be developed, and that everybody can understand what a cash debate or a rebate or the film tax incentive is, because it's very technical at the end. Always, as things are to do with production, film production, it's very technical, and it's not what we understand now, that there is some political choices, there is debates that are to be made, and it's very good, but it's also very important that those choices can be explained to a little larger circle as only the people that are directly concerned. And so this clear will can go with some obstacles. I don't know, for example, with what will be with retroactivity. We spoke about it, but it's always a question, retroactivity of the law. That is a very technical legal question, or what will the political situation that is getting to change in a way that we don't know in some month affect it or not. But I think that the questions that are now here are questions that are able to build a mechanism which will be stable, and also that is also a very important discussion about where it comes from. What I understand is that the first fundings could come from a budget from the Prime Minister, but of course the question that you said, that if it's also a discussion about having it in the Ministry of Culture, that is also a discussion about what is the Ministry of Culture in Romania, and what kind of budget it should dispose of. So that's also a very positive discussion that cinema industry brings on the table to situate in a way the Ministry of Culture, and what makes a Ministry of Culture. You can easily compare the competencies and the budget relatively to the population of the different Ministry of Cultures in Europe, and you can also see what are the choices that are made. And that's very important, that it also, the cinema industry say that it's bringing this to support this kind of conversation about what are the competencies of the Ministry of Culture. And at the end, so it's political, cultural, economic choice, but what you said and what needs to be reached, and I say that also because we want, as French Institute, as French Embassy, to be able to level up the cooperation, to be able to promote also this bilateral cooperation in cinema production. Of course, at the end, we cannot do that correctly with the partners if there is not this clear scheme, this stability and this smoothness that you spoke about, which is absolutely needed. And at the end, it's not something impossible to reach. I'm just seeing it very honestly as a very, very positive and fruitful discussion with a solid basis now of political will and also like competencies involved, people that are really competent and want really to have something happening very soon and very strongly. And we are fully in support to that, and we will in the next weeks and months not turning our back and say, okay, everything has been done. Of course, we will be there as friends and partners of the authorities and the producers in Romania. And I think that from the French case, the links between France and Romania in the cinema industries, productions, and in the cinema sector, if you want, are so strong that we really feel concerned.
I want to add something. Where the money comes from in France for the film industry. I think it's very important to talk about that and continue to talk about that, because to Christy's question, where are the money? Why there are not money in the budget? Again, I don't want to listen from now on. Anyone would say, oh, there are not money in the budget, and why to give the money from Romanian people, from the taxes the Romanians are paying. They are not from them, just to be clear. For the films which were made in Romania, and they came here just because they could go anywhere else, but they choose Romania because it looked like these things works. For all the money that these productions brought, and for the debt that Romania has to this project, which is about 54 million, if I'm not mistaken, right? 50
million euro a
No,
year.
what's the debt? What's the...
At this moment, roughly 50 million.
Yes, for this 50 million, the Romanian state already get about 58 million in taxes, right? So it's not losing any money. In other words, whatever money he would put in the budget for this, he will collect them and to give them away. But just in the case of France, and was also in the case of UK, I think people, when design this help for this industry, it's not only about the culture, because yes, film is the most expensive art in a way, right? But it's also it's entertainment, and it's also one of the most profitable business in the world after war and drugs, as far as I know, right? But in France or in UK, they don't take this money from the hospitals or from education or from the roads, from building the roads, right? For instance, in France, as far as I know, the underlying principle was that avant sur la recette, right? So it's actually, yes, it's a circle, it helps, and it's based on the fact that the state said, you will have people to watch this, right? I will give you money in advance from...
It's confidence.
Of course, it's confidence in this. It's confidence that people will come and watch, and actually they will pay for it. It's everywhere. It's the same. It's the same thing. And when you design such a scheme, of course you look to the huge body of work that it was done in these states, and again, especially UK and France, in the past 30 years to support this industry and what benefit they brought to it. And I think that's very, very important to look and with this thing so we own nothing to we need to prove. Of course, we need to explain, because when all kind of populist politicians are coming and say, oh, we can't take care about this frivole element of culture, of society, when we have so many other problems. But we don't, well.
Dăm voie să traduc în română foarte pe scurt suma de 50 de milioane pe care ai menționat-o, pentru că probabil că cei din sală nu știu despre ce e vorba. În esență este suma pe care statul român a angajat-o ca să susțină această schemă de cash rebate și pe care o și datorează acum pe exercițiul financiar de ajutor de stat care se încheie la sfârșitul acestui an. Da? Deci asta e suma pe care statul o datorează și pe care ar trebui să o mobilizeze deocamdată doar ca să stingă datoriile angajate pe firmele pe care le-a aprobat.
Statul s-a angajat la 250 de milioane în ultimii 5 ani, în realitate. Există această maximă de 50 de milioane pentru că face parte din genul de aprobare pe care o avem de la Comisia Europeană pentru ajutorul ăsta de stat.
Da, este o limită anuală bugetară, dar e o coincidență doar, este și valoarea proiectelor, cererilor de plată care s-au depus și nu s-au realizat, ceea ce înseamnă...
Pentru filmele din ultimii 4 ani, practic.
Da.
Și e o sumă pe care putem să o luăm în calcul pentru estimarea de buget pentru ce va urma, anuală?
Va rămâne, în măsura în care programul rămâne în baza acestui regulament european, vom rămâne în această limită de 50 de milioane de euro anual, dar state precum Slovacia au găsit aceste mecanisme prin care reușesc să nu atingă limita și nu închid sesiunea, printr-o planificare bugetară foarte, foarte bună, exact cum spunea Andrei, cumva estimează cererea și semnarea, angajarea bugetară este programată mult mai bine, astfel încât să nu se întâmple toată alocarea de 50 de milioane într-o perioadă foarte scurtă de timp.
Am eu o ultimă întrebare. Care sunt pașii următori concreți? Ce urmează în lunile viitoare, luând în calcul inclusiv celebra rotativă guvernamentală?
În acest moment, din perspectiva Ministerului Culturii, noi continuăm să lucrăm la următoarele lucruri. Am finalizat procedura de plată. Un alt motiv pentru care s-a blocat acest program a fost pe lângă faptul că a ajuns în gestiunea unor funcționari care nu erau pregătiți să analizeze filme, faptul că nu a existat niciodată elaborat o procedură foarte detaliată despre cum aceste rapoarte de audit ar trebui citite și verificate. Și această lipsă legislativă a lăsat un gol imposibil de umplut până acum. Noi, pe baza legislației existente în sesiunile 2018 și 2019, și de aici problema de retroactivitate a legii, am încercat să creionăm această procedură, adică să nu aducem niciun element nou, ci doar să detaliem tot ceea ce a fost scris la momentul respectiv ca regulă de finanțare. Și această procedură acum o avem în analiză împreună cu colegii din Ministerul Finanțelor și din Consiliul Concurenței pentru a vedea că respectă rigorile lor. Aceasta ceea ce privește prima problemă de blocare a cererilor de plată. Pentru cererile de finanțare care așteaptă, avem deja proceduri scrise de la momentul la care s-au deschis sesiunile de proiect și poate că ar trebui să pun mai mult accentul pe viitor, că acolo sunt multe lucruri frumoase pe care le putem face, dar rezerva vine tot din acest backlog pe care ne-l dorim foarte mult să-l rezolvăm. Nu doar ambasadele, ci și producătorii de filme internaționale, toți au venit spre noi cu foarte mult sprijin și cu foarte mult know-how. Atât Franța, cât și Marea Britanie, Statele Unite, Germania, Italia, foarte multe organisme, ambasade și instituții de film și-au arătat disponibilitatea de a ne împărtăși rețeta succesului lor. Și atunci, pe viitor, încercăm să adoptăm și noi bune practici care vin din zona de angajare bugetară, această angajare mai aproape de momentul intrării în producție, adică pe modelul Slovacia, proiectul este practic notificat Comisiei de Film intenția de producție cu un buget provizoriu și ținut pe listă care nu are o sumă maximă, dar cu mult mai puțin timp înainte de producție, câteva săptămâni, abia atunci se semnează acordul de finanțare, ceea ce înseamnă că proiecte pot veni să se înscrie mult mai multe, dar vor fi finanțate cele mult mai aproape de realizare. Acesta ar fi una dintre ele. O altă problemă cu care ne vom confrunta, sperăm, în momentul în care va reîncepe rebate-ul, va fi faptul că nu vom putea asimila un număr atât de mare de producții la nivel național și iarăși una dintre bunele practici este aceea de a include în proiectele finanțate, susținute, atrase prin cash rebate, un număr de trainees, de începători, la libertatea producătorului pe oricare dintre departamente, dar cumva funcționând programul ajută și la creșterea profesiilor din domeniu. Și ne mai uităm la o simplificare și clarificare mult mai mare a documentației necesare. Știu că sunt lucruri foarte tehnice, dar din păcate acestea sunt și provocările cu care ne luptăm acum. Nu este simplu nici deblocarea programului fără mutarea sa, inclusiv înființarea acestei instituții desemnate. Este un plan ambițios instituțional, dar cred că este o măsură esențială pentru a debloca și pentru a reuși să facem industria cinematografică și a producției de opere audiovizuale din România să crească mult mai mult decât poate acum în acest ritm enorm de mic. Angajamentul Ministerului Culturii este foarte ferm. Mai departe, suntem și noi condiționați de concursul guvernului.
Mersi mult. Are cineva din sală vreo întrebare? Vă rog.
In Romanian, in English, okay, I will say in English, if it's so bad to shoot movies in Romania, why Anthony Minghella and Paul Schreiber and Terry Gilliam came here and made very important movies, and Gavras as well. And if it's so good to shoot films in Hungary, why now no non-important Hungarian film directors work there? They all work in other countries. Why?
I think this last, the last thing that you say is not actually true. Some Hungarians work outside, because of course, you know, for those one, and especially in Hungary, who got a certain preeminence, they could work anywhere. The fact that, for instance, Cristian chose to still stay in Romania and work in Romania was his choice. I think he always had this opportunity to work outside, and it's I think one of the greatest things that he actually did. The fact that he stayed true to his art and his way of filmmaking. That was a personal choice, I would say. But otherwise, in Hungary, it's a very, very strong and solid Hungarian film production for Hungarian movies. That's clear.
But there is also a very strong censorship in Hungary. And we know personally directors that may not be financed by the Hungarian government. And one of them being Cornel Mundruțo, who actually shot for Netflix.
But he made his last movie in other countries.
Yes, but these two questions of yours are very different. One of them being that Hungarians do make movies, but they
none of them work now in Hungary.
Yeah, but this is because of the political reasons and because of the censorship that we know very well.
They have their reasons, yeah.
Yes, but the big names that you mentioned coming to Romania, all of them happened at least 5 or 6 years ago. I mean, Andrei was running the studio when all these people came to shoot here, and this stopped somewhere in, I think, the last one was Terry Gilliam, the last one you mentioned, and this was 2013.
2013.
So we're in 2023.
It's really impossible to compare the Romanian business to the Hungarian business. They're making Dune, they made Blade Runner. I mean, they've got studios that are full and booked up for months, some even years in advance. The scale of the industry in Hungary is just dwarfs the Romanian industry. So you just can't compare.
They created Hollywood. Hungarians created Hollywood, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a very successful business, but of course Romania has some fantastic things to offer.
Their ancestors, created Hollywood,
Yeah, of course. But then if you think about it, there are some projects that you definitely want to do in Romania because of the landscape, because of the culture, things like that. So Cold Mountain, I worked briefly with Anthony when he was wrecking North Carolina, where that show was set, and they couldn't afford to do it in North Carolina. And actually, we were doing the Sherlock Holmes project at that time in Castel. And we said, well, we're making a show in Romania, you should come have a look. And he came over and went off on a recce in a helicopter, which we were very impressed by. And they ended up making Cold Mountain here in Romania because of the landscape. So there are going to be specific reasons why you choose countries. You know, Hungary doesn't have the landscape that Romania has, but it has got an amazing studio infrastructure. So when you're a producer, you're looking at numerous options. You know, you could shoot in the UK. If it's an international project, say it's a sci-fi, it's set in space, your criteria are one thing. If it's a show set on location where you want a specific environment, your criteria is slightly different. But I think the main point that Tudor and Oculus made is that 10 years ago, if the big film hasn't come to Romania for 10 years, you have to ask yourself why.
But now it's not the same competition, because it's not just about tax incentive. In Hungary, there are 2 big studios, and one of the studios is practically the biggest in the world in this moment, and it's fully booked till 2027. So, irrespective of the fact that there are political constraints there, you might say, and especially for Hungarian filmmakers, they have the infrastructure, and the infrastructure means not only studio, they have a community which has work like every day. It's very almost impossible to find a Hungarian crew, because all of them have work.
you find Romanians working
a lot
in
of
Hungary.
Romanians. I've been last year in Slovakia with over 100 Romanians. There were another 100 which went to Greece to another project, and like 50 in Italy. So 250 of the best Romanian crew last year, just to my knowledge, but there are others as well. They went to work outside. That's the reality. That's what this brought also, which is a huge damage, I think, to what we achieved. So, you know, again, I'm highly respectful for the fact that, again, Cristian is staying here to do films in Romania, and he loves this country and he loves his art, and the fact that's a great help for us. Because for what you said, it's not only Hungary. I think, you know, for a filmmaker who achieved like international success, well, lots of them, they are dreaming to go to Hollywood, right? Cristian never dreamed about Hollywood, in a way, because he has another kind of freedom that it can't be achieved anywhere else, right? So I think Tudor said very right. Probably lots of these Hungarian filmmakers that you are thinking about, probably it's a moral choice why they don't choose to do films in Hungary. Not because they wouldn't have the facilities or the resources or the money or even the country. That's what I think. It's tax rebate anywhere. Right now, only if you come to Romania, and again in Belarus, you will not taxes. Even Moldavia has a tax rebate, or even Ukraine.